This is Glow in the Dark Radio. The science fiction podcast with original independent science fiction written and performed by Mike Luoma, with music by Kevin MacLeod. The Vatican Assassin Trilogy and The Adventures of Alibi Jones by Mike Luoma are available in ebook, trade paperback, and audiobook wherever you find your books online. Get links and details at glowinthedarkradio.com. This is the science fiction podcast, Glow in the Dark Radio. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma, and I've got part 1 of chapter 9 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her on the way. It's about a 34-minute long chapter, so we're going to divide it just about evenly in half at about the 17-minute mark. I think this is the last chapter we have to do this to, at least for a while, so. That was just logistics. Let's look at where we are in the story so far. Alibi Jones is about to jump into the Metcalf system to attempt recovery of an artifact said to have given the race known as the Ancient Enemy the ability to travel by thought. That's the Travel Chair of Enokata, said to be guarded by an ancient security system called the Laughing Array. If Alibi can bring back the travel chair, this guy Finder's going to give him the sunrise of her. Everybody goes away happy. Well, supposedly. We'll see what happens. And we'll hit the Metcalf system with Alibi Jones as we get into part 1 of chapter 9 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her, coming up on this episode of Glow in the Dark Radio. In book news, the paperback of this novel, not the whole omnibus, but of the novel, Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her, should be on sale pretty much everywhere for the rest of this month. I know the prices have come down in U.S. stores. Should be in Canada and Australia, in the European Union, in the UK. If you can get the paperback, you should be able to get it at a slightly lower price for the rest of this month of April. A is for April and Alibi Jones, and that's what we're going with there. And you can go to a pretty cool link that we have. It's a website that has links to all the places you can get the book. It's called books2read.com/Alibi Jones Sunrise. So if you go there, you can get Alibi Jones Sunrise of Her in paperback. It's got the links to all the places it's available, and all the places you can get it as an ebook, and all the places you can get it as an audiobook. It's a universal link site. Something new I'm trying. I thought it was cool, so I've signed up to use it. books2read.com/Alibi Jones Sunrise. I want to thank patrons who help keep this happening, keep this podcast going, and I'd like to encourage you to become a patron if you like what you're hearing and you want to keep the show happening. There are 3 different levels you can sign up and pledge per month: $2, $5, and $10. And $2 kind of is the sustaining level. $5 and $10, I do try to get you a little bit more. And I do try to come out with early episodes and things for patrons. So if you can, and you're enjoying what you hear, please head to patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio and sign up. Or just head there and get more details about the different tiers and how you can get involved. Again, that's Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio. And we'll get into part 1 of chapter 9 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her coming up next on Glow in the Dark Radio.
Hi, I'm JC. My co-host Cindy and I host the Fix It Home Improvement Podcast. We cover projects that every homeowner should know and top-rated products for home and garden. You can check it out on your favorite podcast app. It's called Fix It, F-I-X-I-T, Home Improvement.
is Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her, Part 1 of Chapter 9 on Glow in the Dark Radio. Alibi feels a headache come on as his cruiser jumps out of transspace, pressing points of pain at his temples. He massages the sides of his head and checks the ship's sensors and scanners for any anomalies, any weird energy patterns or rogue electromagnetic waves that might be causing his discomfort.
What the hell? What is that? Some kind of pressure? Not picking up any stellar wind or weird discharges from the system's star. Actually, looks like a nice stable little sun.
Alibi reads through the sensor and scan data from the planet Metcalf and its star system coming into the bridge. The results paint a picture of a nice Earth-like world in the star's temperate zone.
Nice neighborhood.
Alibi begins flying the cruiser in closer. The pressure on the sides of Alibi's skull increases, as if someone tightens an invisible vice clamped around his head.
Yikes, that's not so nice. Mind pressure? Am I really feeling it, or is it just in my head? Is this part of it? Part of what's supposed to drive men mad?
Alibi hears something that sounds like it's coming from back in the ship's galley. The echo of a sound. Distant tinkling bells, or maybe wind chimes. No, not from the galley. They seem to be coming from the opposite direction now. But that would be outside of the ship, in the vacuum of space.
Where is that sound coming from? Is it on the ship?
Now intensely curious, Alibi turns off all the comm speakers on the cruiser. The distant chiming grows louder, and then softer. He sets the ship's engines on minimum power. Then he cools the power plant down to almost nothing. Still, the ringing is there, ever so slightly, in the background. Alibi runs through a mental checklist of anything else that might be making sounds on the ship. He even calls up the galley's produce cooler controls and temporarily turns them off. All the while, the tinkling, the ringing goes on at the very limit of Alibi's hearing. When he gets most of the cruiser's systems powered down, Alibi sits on the bridge and tries to concentrate on the distant chimes, to hear the sound more clearly. But as he attempts to truly focus in on the noise, to listen more intently, the ringing sounds seem to fade, and this time they go away completely. There are chiming echoes, then silence. Alibi keeps listening.
Nothing now?
He sits in silence for a few minutes.
Weird.
He gives up on his listening and begins turning the ship's systems back up and on. The hums, low buzzes, and normal noises of operation again fill the ship as it returns to full power. With no visible or apparent barriers in his way, Alibi sets the cruiser's controls for the orbit of the mad planet Metcalf and launches the ship in towards the yellow star's inner planets. Alibi continues to listen for the ringing as he brings his ship in towards Metcalf. Although the headache keeps its vice grip pressure on his temples, he doesn't hear the bells again. Despite the annoying headache pain, as he approaches the beautiful blue-green world, Alibi better understands the attraction the planet must have held for the settlers, the Metcalf family. It looks a lot like Earth from orbit. His scanner and sensor readings show a world lush with life. A garden world.
A paradise? Those worlds are never what they seem.
2 major artificial energy sources are detectable from orbit, one large and one small. They're situated fairly close together. As he doesn't know exactly what the power sources are, Alibi isn't sure he should land right next to either one of them. He decides to set down between the two, keeping an equal measure from each of them at what he hopes is a safe distance.
But what is safe here anyway? Safe from what?
What indeed? Alibi is still feeling that strange mind pressure. He analyzes the planet's atmosphere as he brings the ship down through it. Nice mix of primarily oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen.
Nothing weird in the air? No toxins? No nerve agents? Doesn't seem to be anything they were breathing that drove them crazy here. So what did?
As the cruiser flies in over lush vegetation on the surface below, Alibi finds himself wishing he had a map of the colony, so he could at least identify what the power sources were.
A map would be nice. Wait a sec. I have maps.
Setting the ship's controls to hover When they arrive over the potential landing area, Alibi runs down to the galley and common area. He grabs the hard copies of the star maps from Depot and leafs through them, looking to see if they also contain planetary maps. Aha! He finds something that looks helpful. Alibi discovers blueprints for the colony, but no actual maps. The Metcalf's family's claim on the planet that they filed with the Solar Alliance included their plans for the colony. The hard copies Alibi is looking at could have come directly from the Metcalfs themselves. Only one of the power sources is on the blueprints. The old plans show the smaller energy source to be a residential power plant on the outskirts of the settlement of Metcalf City. The old power plant evidently still holds some residual power 20 years after the colony collapsed. There's no explanation for the larger power source on the colony's plans. The power source is, however, located in an area the plans call Unexplored Eldred Ruins, possible crash site.
What crashed? An Eldred ship?
Bing! A light ping grabs Alibi's attention. The cruiser alert tells Alibi they've arrived over his chosen landing site.
We're here.
Alibi makes his way back up to the bridge.
Is that?
For a brief moment, Alibi thinks he hears the chiming bells. If he did, by the time he thought to listen for them, they were already gone. He shakes his head. He sits back down in the pilot's chair and instructs the ship to fold down the landing gear. Then he maneuvers the cruiser in and touches down on the surface of Metcalf. It's warm outside the ship, according to the temperature readings Alibi is seeing on the bridge. There's no inclement weather going on, and with a breathable atmosphere, Alibi shouldn't need an EVA suit to leave the ship. He grabs an exploration pack from his storage area, throws a light jacket on, and makes his way to the cruiser's airlock. Once off the ship, Alibi finds himself standing amid an open field of long, grass-like vegetation surrounding the cruiser. The air feels a little damp, as if it has recently rained, and smells like mossy, freshly turned dirt, what Alibi's Aunt Anita would call an earthy odor.
Except I'm a long way from Earth right now.
Alibi decides to investigate the known before the unknown. He heads out for the smaller power source, hoping to see the settlement, or what's left of it. He walks across the field. Aside from the constant headache, Metcalf strikes Alibi as remarkably pleasant. It is a very Earth-like world, though the sky is more green than the blue of Earth, this sun's light a bit more intensely yellow than Sol's. Although unique and alien, the local flora and fauna possess a similarity to the plants and beasts of the mother world, and the ones that are near to Alibi appear, at least for the most part, to be non-threatening. As Alibi approaches the settlement, the vegetation changes. A stone wall, now overgrown by native species, marks the boundary of the human habitation. Past the wall, Alibi recognizes Earth-native plants still growing wild among the planet's own plant life. He sees wheat and corn, growing tangled and unchecked in what must have once been the agricultural center for the colony, putting up a valiant fight against the planet's native species, working to take back their planet. Screech! Screech! Alibi hears a sound like metal on metal off in the distance. He can hear clicks and buzzes from small native creatures scurrying around him in the undergrowth. He glimpses quick flashes of movement, but doesn't actually see any of the small creatures. And then he hears it. Laughter. It's the chiming bells, the tinkling sound he heard on the cruiser, but now louder, faster, and more intense. When gentler and quieter, it sounded like bells, but now the bells sound like laughter. Alibi still has no idea where the sound is coming from.
This means it probably wasn't anything on board the ship. Am I actually hearing it? Or is it in my head?
The sound seems to surround Alibi, coming from nowhere and yet everywhere at once. A crowd laughing at him, although he stands alone upon the surface of an alien world, probably the only man alive on the entire planet. Unless... "Is somebody there?" Alibi calls out. The laughter goes silent as soon as Alibi pays it attention. "Hello? Is anybody there?" There's no answer to Alibi's shouting. He feels a little foolish. He's calling out to no one on a dead, abandoned world.
But if the planet is abandoned, who is laughing? Maybe that's what drove the people here mad? Yet it seems like such a nice place.
Alibi continues his trek towards the old power station. He crests a ridge, and the scene grows much less idyllic. The burnt ruins of a city stretch out before him. From his vantage point, he can see that most of the burning occurred long ago. He puts on his pair of infrared goggles and surveys the scene. The only hot spot is the old reactor he spotted from orbit.
Throwing off that much heat, it might be ruptured. Could be some serious radiation.
A small pyramid shape catches his eye, just up ahead. He walks over to investigate. Before he gets to the pyramid, he finds the remnants of a road stretching down towards the city in the valley below. It heads back off towards the fields in the other direction, disappearing into the undergrowth a short distance away. After crossing the road, Alibi reaches the pyramid.
Ugh.
The pyramid is a pile of skulls. Scraggly pieces of clinging hair and leathered flesh, mummified by the atmosphere, stick to the skulls in the pile, overgrown by native plants. Without the right microbes to break down the old tissue on the bones, it has not decomposed, only dried in place. It adds to the sense of wrongness Alibi feels from the pile. Then he hears the laughter again. Again it fades as he pays it attention.
Annoying. Maddening?
He shakes his head. The vice-like mind pressure continues. It's become so constant, he's become used to it, as if he's grown accustomed to wearing an ill-fitting, too-tight cap. But it's still there. He turns away from the pyramid of skulls, from the evidence of depravity from years past. He looks out over the city and surveys the old, burnt-out ruins.
This is a dead place.
Seeing the burnt-out old colony for a dead end, Alibi makes a decision to reverse direction. He strikes out towards the larger, unknown energy source. He walks for a moment, but then is doubled over. The headache just got markedly worse. The vice tightened. Alibi blinks, massages his temples, and tries to fight off the pain. He straightens up and tries again to walk towards the more powerful energy source. But he's once again burdened by more intense mind pressure. The pincer grip on his temples tightens. He tries to take another step, and another, but it feels as if each step notches up the vice on his mind, tightening on his brain step by step. The pressure pulses at his temples with every beat of his heart. He pauses, spreading the palm of his left hand across his forehead, pressing his thumb and forefinger against either temple. He hears the laughing again. Who? What are you? Alibi considers yelling again, but figures that would be foolish.
If it's in my head, maybe I should just think it really loud. You're not going to stop me, whatever you are. Not yet, anyway.
Double doors. The thought comes to him clearly, as if someone standing next to him said the words out loud. But he's still alone, despite the low-volume laughter that seems to surround him.
Double doors!
Alibi thinks of doors closing, but he loses concentration as the laughter grows a little louder. Still, it's somewhat effective. The headache does not go away, but the grip weakens, slackens again from pinching vice to uncomfortable cap. The laughter grows faint. Alibi blinks away floaters, along with remnants of the more intense pain.
Better!
He recommits himself and walks away from the settlement, off across the fields towards the larger energy source. The land levels out for a bit, a low plain covered by the grass-like vegetation. Hills appear in the distance as he nears the energy signature. As he approaches the site, the hills begin to look too regular, squared and rectangular.
Eldred ruins?
This vegetation long ago completed the reclamation work its distant younger cousins creeping over the Metcalf city settlement have only just begun. The native plant life has grown up, over, and through the ancient buildings, subsuming them completely. The resulting rounded mounds reveal their past purposes only in their inorganic symmetry.
Well, except for that.
Cresting a squared hill, Alibi sees a deep, jagged brown trench cutting across and through the fuzzy green grid of Eldred ruins. He takes an energy reading. The strong, unknown power source lies almost straight ahead in the direction carved out by the trench. He walks over the square green hills toward the gash in the landscape and shakes his head, trying to shake off the pressure, trying to both hear and ignore the elusive, chiming laughter. Once again, the grip begins to tighten. The laughter grows a little louder.
Close the double doors.
He remembers again the way he shut out and kept out Azimuth's greasy mental grasping. But something isn't working.
It's like I can see the doors, but they're not the same. Not like it was with Finder. Doors aren't strong enough.
As Alibi reaches the edge of the trench, the feel of his headache changes. The dull throbbing pain develops a sharper edge, as if his brain is being rhythmically poked and prodded by hot knives. He winces at each intrusive stab of pain. The jabs intensify as Alibi steps down into the trench.
It's almost a mechanical, metallic version of Azimuth's black, oily mental hold, as if a robot version of him is grabbing for my mind. That's it. Something is grabbing at me. A steel hand, clutching at my mind. No wonder I was reminded of Azimuth.
With thoughts of Azimuth, the fullness of the lesson taught him by his dead father returns to memory.
Heavy double wooden doors to keep them out. Doors close.
Alibi sees the heavy doors thud shut in his mind's eye. The sharp poking dulls back down to a throbbing pain. That was part 1 of Chapter 9 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her on Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. Well, at least Alibi figured out how to get himself a little relief from this laughing thing. The old double doors trick still worked. The one that he used against Azimuth, the one his father BC showed him in his spirit appearances, dreams, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, it worked. Although this is different than Azimuth, mechanical and strange feelings kind of pressuring his mind, pressuring his head. This mind pressure that just keeps getting worse. Could it be the laughing array? That's what Alibi's thinking, is that this is more than likely it. We're going to have to find out in part 2 of Chapter 9 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her on our next episode of Glow in the Dark Radio. A reminder, you can get the paperback of the novel we're listening to, Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her, with its very cool Federico Guillen cover, too. It is available now for under $20 for the trade paperback, pretty much in the U.S. stores and comparably discounted in stores all around the world for the rest of this month of April. A is for April and Alibi Jones, and you can get your hands on this novel for a discount price for the rest of the month. If you want to get details or find links to all the different places you can pick up the book, not just as a paperback, but also as an ebook or an audiobook, just go to books2read.com/Alibi Jones Sunrise. And again, a big thank you to patrons who help keep the show going. And if you want to become a patron, just go to patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio. You can find out more there about the 3 different tiers, $2, $5, and $10 a month, and what you kind of usually get and all that. And again, a big thank you to those of you who do that and help keep this show going. I couldn't do it without you. And that is all for this week. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma. Thank you again for listening to Glow in the Dark Radio. Glow in the Dark Radio. This podcast presentation is copyright 2025 by Michael F. Luoma and is protected under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License, CC by NC-ND 4.0. Music by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his work at Incompetech.com. Mike's books are available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook, wherever you find books online. Get links and more details at glowinthedarkradio.com and mikeluoma.com. This has been a presentation of Glow in the Dark Radio.